What's going on, everybody? David Feldman-Makrias here, and I want to go over a common expression I hear and use. I tried to combine hear and use with this blah blah blah, whatever. I hear it all the time, especially in marketing and in life. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think this mentality can be used, but I also think it's wrong. And let me explain why. If something's not broken, don't fix it. Yeah, I get that. Like if something works, just keep the status quo, don't make a lot of changes. I don't agree though, because especially as things evolve so quickly, at least in the digital advertising space, but in life in general, I think we need to evaluate. So let's add to this statement. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't know what accent that was. So instead of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I want to put a strike through this. I want to change this up a little bit. Let's put a strike through that. If it ain't broke, meaning it's performing well, I'm going to say evaluate. Evaluate how to make it better. I mean, that's not quite as fluid of a sentence, but it's true. Let's say if it ain't broke, how do we make it better? If it ain't broke, that's great. But how do we make it better? How can we make it better? Now, how do we make it better? But also, not make it worse. That's the thing. I don't even want to put that though, because I'm a big believer in the language you use affects the outcomes that you have. So I don't even want to put that in the same sentence because you're like, oh God, it's going to make it worse. No, but let's talk about it. How do you not make it worse? And I want to apply this to, let's say, Google Ads or any digital marketing or whatever. Let's say you have a campaign that's working really well. Awesome. That's great. But how do we make it better? I guess questions to ask yourself is, do we have an understanding of why it isn't broke or performing well? Like, we need to have an understanding. If not, we need to figure it out. So even if it's not broken and we're not going to fix it, that's great, but we need to know why. Like, why is it working? Why are things actually happening? Because if we understand this, then we're going to be able to better apply the same methodology to other situations. So that's one thing. Also, like, things evolve all the time. We need to be testing. And how this can be applied, like, okay, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Maybe if it's not broke, take 10% of the not broke and test to learn. And keep 90% of the not broke the same. Like, you always need to have different things that you're testing. And because there always is room to improve. There's always better outcomes, right? So, but what does that mean? Like, okay, if something's working and you don't want to change it, I get that, but you should have a little bit of room, a little bit of budget that you can play with, that you can mess with, a little bit of ad copy that you can change, and make sure this 10% you want to play with has a balance of impact. I'm going to say it has a balance or a dichotomy because it's my new favorite word. New favorite word that I maybe can spell. Dichotomy of impact. Ooh, how do I spell it? There you go. Why? So you can easily say that, okay, David, we're going to listen to you. It's not broke. We're going to test 10%. We're going to use a 10%, ratio to test campaign. So we're going to take this itty little bitty campaign and that doesn't spend much, and we're going to test a new ad copy on it. Usually what happens in that situation is it doesn't yield anything because it's not a campaign that's significant enough as far as spend or significant enough as far as demand or something like that. So it's like, dang, how do we actually test things and with impact? Like if you're going to run a test, you have to run it on enough people. So if I wanted to run a test and say, okay, I wanted to improve my emails or whatever, I wouldn't just send it to 1,000 people. No, that's a bad analogy. Let's say my list is 50,000, right? If I wanted to test something, I wouldn't just test on, 50 people. What real results are we going to get from that? That's 1% of my list, right? What results am I going to get from only sampling to 1%? It's got to be some sort of significant impact, right? Or like a significant volume of change. How that applies to Google Ads as an instance is you can run things like A/B split tests. You can run things like, ad copy tests and things like that. And you can do that to major campaigns. Also, again, this goes to knowledge and principles. Knowing what sort of tests are going to yield what type of impact. Like an ad copy test in Google Ads is typically yields a far less overall account impact than a bid strategy test. And that leads me to make a video about what changes you can make to a Google Ads account and what sort of impact they're going to have on your account or campaign or what have you, and why. Because understanding that allows you to understand, okay, what are the different levers that I can pull for what situation? And like, let's say a client says, well, we need to test something new, but performance is doing really good. So now you're at this spectrum of it ain't broke, don't fix it, but how do we make it better? So these are some of the principles and things to think about. And that's why I think just in this day and age, why can't it be better though? How can we make it better? So I don't like this terminology. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, I understand. But how can we make it better? And how simultaneously can we, not make it worse? Even though I don't like it saying that way. So how do we make it better? Always, how do we make it better? How do we fine tune? How do we tweak? But remember to balance that with just because we need to make it better doesn't mean we change everything. I wouldn't recommend that. Do the stuff, do the principles, do the things and understand why they work. Keep doing those things and then take some sort of percentage to try new things to see if you can make it better. And have a knowledge of what sort of tests are going to yield what sort of results. And it's a balance. So hopefully that helps. End rant. Love you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next one.